Welcome to this fourth of our studies in the Song of Songs. Today we come to chapter 2 verses 1 to 7, and as has been my custom, I will read the passage to you from the New International Version. I hope you can join me by opening your own Bibles. So we read, I am a rose of Sharon, a lily of the valleys. Like a lily among thorns is my darling among young women. Like an apple tree among the trees of the forest is my beloved among the young men. I delight to sit in his shade, and his fruit is sweet to my taste. Let him lead me to the banqueting hall, and let his banner over me be love. Strengthen me with raisins, refresh me with apples, for I am faint with love. His left arm is under my head, and his right arm embraces me. Daughters of Jerusalem, I charge you by the gazelles and by the does of the field, do not arouse or awaken love until it so desires. As the first chapter of the Song of Songs ended, the young lovers to whom we've been introduced had reached the point in which the young man has pledged himself to the girl, and their mutual relationship has developed to the point that they find a delight in one another's company that exceeds any other relationship they may have previously enjoyed. Left alone, they've deepened in their knowledge of one another as people, and as lovers blossomed, have experienced an increasingly growing sexual arousal. Their delight in one another is then driving them to seek that intimacy, which is the seal and ultimate expression of their shared love. The following verses, Chapter 2 verses 1 to 7 that we've just read, move matters forward. As so often in these songs, and in that of ancient Near Eastern poetry generally, the young woman takes the initiative. The language is obviously flirtatious, but more importantly it conceals a serious intent. So she begins by comparing herself to a rose from Sharon, or a lily of the valleys. Both flowers flourished in ancient Palestine and were a byword for beauty. It appears therefore that this young girl is recognizing, as her boyfriend has told her, that she is beautiful, but she suggests, I am merely one among many. Her boyfriend understands the implied challenge, as we can see by his reply in verse 2. Lily, she certainly is. She is as beautiful to him, and in comparison to her, all other girls are like thorns. The young man may be making a double point here. The obvious meaning is that she surpasses all others in his eyes. But he may also be pledging himself to her exclusively, recognizing that to dally with other flowers is such as will only bring pain. He expresses his intention then that he is resolved to only pick one blossom, and that is her. It may be this latter point that the young woman picks up in her reply in verse 3. She therefore subtly continues to use language drawn from nature that was often used in sexually charged contexts like this one. Because she's so special to her boyfriend, then he is special to her, and both his company and the arousal that comes with it is something that fills her with delight and longing. As with much ancient poetry, translation is difficult, and hence Bible versions differ among themselves when it comes to verse 4. However, the most popular rendering is satisfactory. The young woman implies that she's readying herself for sexual consummation, but that she's not ready to give herself fully to her boyfriend until he has made their relationship public. In contemporary language, she's awaiting the time when they have pledged their love to one another in the presence of others and enjoyed the celebrations that testify to the community's recognition and affirmation of them. Of course, she's already romanticized in the previous chapter as to the moment when she and her husband slip hurriedly away to the wedding bed. At this point, the language becomes more terse and insistent. It seems to reflect the progressively deepening longing for intimacy which has now been stirred by the ever more intimate love play of the young couple that is alluded to in verse 6. Perhaps the point is that his hands seem to be everywhere. He might well have responded in kind. Their longings have reached near frenetic proportions. The young woman, for one, finds this at one and the same time exhilarating, but also exhausting. Again, the language is the language of erotic literature. Raisins were often likened to the mons veneris, and apples, as we have already seen, to lips. Is the point that she finds deeply arousing his kisses, and longs to be able to share her raisin cakes with him? But not yet. Her final words in verse 7 reduce the temperature as she speaks to other young women. Love in all its fullness, so she has discovered, finds its supreme outlet in longing for sexual consummation. But it needs time and to be handled sensitively. Gazelles and does are easily frightened and must be approached carefully and tenderly. Despite her exhausting longings and the arousal she seems to feel in every fibre of her being, approaching this almost sacred moment must not be rushed until the time when speed will be of the essence on entering the bridal chamber. One final comment. In verse 7, if the Hebrew vowels are removed and replaced by others, the words by the gazelles and by the does of the field can be read by Sabaoth or El Shaddai, both of which are titles used of God in the Old Testament. This sort of elusive language is often found in the Bible, so it's not unlikely that it is deliberate here. What then is the point that is being made by this young girl? First of all, we note that she feels able to seek God's help precisely because her experience is one that is consistent with a divine purpose. The happiness she has felt in finding a soulmate and the mutual delight that they have found in one another is a crucial part of what it means to be human beings made in the image of God. The longings they both have for consummation are longings that God has placed within them, both as his own generous gift, as indeed are the delightful anticipations of intimacy that they have already experienced. However, she also realizes that she needs God's help, so that neither she nor her boyfriend, for all the temptation to do so, enter into a sexual exchange that is premature and will cheapen and perhaps even destroy all that was intended to be enjoyed in this supremely intimate moment.